3 days before Lily died, he handed me a red silk scarf and said, "Real quiet, real normal," like he was asking me to remember eggs or lamp oil. "If they tell you my heart gave out, don't believe them." I laughed when he said it. I wish I hadn't. By the way, Lily wasn't his real name. It was just the name we knew him by, underground, on the nights he let himself be Lily. Lily smiled after that, and that made me more uneasy than the words did, because smiling was what he did when he was scared and trying not to spread it around. He folded the scarf once, twice, then pulled it back from my hands and said, "Not this one. If you have to go out, wear the blue hanbok. They'll remember the red." I asked him who would remember it. He didn't answer right away. He just looked over my shoulder toward the basement stairs, listening. Then he leaned in and said, "If I disappear, go to the old textile factory by the river, Railcar 7. There's a sewing machine with a false bottom. Don't go as yourself, go as Minna." That was when I stopped laughing. Not because of the factory, not because of the package, because he said Minna. That name was mine, but only underground, only where nobody important could hear it. My real name is Kim Min-woo. On paper I was exactly the kind of person nobody remembers. I sat behind a desk, stamped papers, kept my head down, and learned the right expression to wear when somebody higher up entered the room. I knew how to agree without sounding eager, how to disappear in a hallway, how to make sure no one ever had a reason to describe me later. That was the daytime version of me. At night sometimes, in a damp basement under an old bathhouse where the pipes knocked like somebody trapped behind the wall, I became Minna. I don't mean that in some dramatic way. I mean that was the only place I ever stopped feeling like I was bracing for impact. The only place where I didn't have to deepen my voice or think about how I was walking or whether my hands were giving me away. Down there, with a cracked mirror propped against a bucket and cheap makeup hidden in tea tins and wigs wrapped in old towels, I could breathe for a little while without feeling stupid for it. That's where I met Lily. He was older than me, maybe by 15 years, and carried himself like somebody who had spent a long time learning how to survive without ever getting credit for it. By day he worked in propaganda. At night he became Lily. He had steady hands, neat habits, and a way of making you feel less ashamed just by sitting next to you quietly. The first night I met him, I kept wiping my lipstick off because I was sure I looked ridiculous. He caught my wrist, looked me right in the eye through that cracked mirror, and said, "Stop apologizing every time you look like yourself." That was Lily. He could say something soft and still leave it sitting in your chest like a stone. So when he told me, with that scarf in his lap and that look on his face, that if they called it a heart attack it meant somebody had done it to him, I should have understood he wasn't being dramatic. I told myself he was paranoid. Everybody was paranoid. That didn't make everybody right. He listened to me talk, nodded like he was humoring a child, then tucked the red scarf into his bag and said, "I hope you get to make fun of me for this later." That was the last time I saw him alive. 3 mornings later, I heard in the market that a man had been found dead in his apartment. No blood, no broken furniture. Wife came home and found him on the living room floor. By noon somebody said the name, Yong-chol. By evening people were saying another thing too, but only in that low, careful way people use when repeating something they know they shouldn't know. There had been a woman's scarf around his neck, red silk. I had to sit down on the edge of a drainage ditch because for a second my legs just didn't feel reliable anymore. I kept my head down and pretended I was fixing my shoe, but really I was thinking about that basement, that warning, the factory, the rail car, and one ugly thought that kept circling back, no matter how hard I pushed it away. He knew, which meant if Lily knew he was about to die, whatever he hid was bad enough to kill over. That was the first hook in my head, the one that wouldn't let go. What did Lily hide that mattered more than his life? The second came right after it. Why did it have to be me? Not me, really. Minna. I didn't go to the basement that night. None of us did. Fear changes little things first. It breaks routine. It makes every familiar place feel already compromised. I stayed home and sat by my door with the lamp off, thinking like a coward. Did he ever say my name out loud? Did anyone see us together? Did they search the bathhouse? Did I leave anything behind? Is there powder dust still under my nails? If they come now, how fast can I burn everything? By the next evening I'd heard two more things. Men from state security had been seen in Lily's building, but not in uniform, and his apartment had been cleaned too quickly, too neat, too final, like somebody wanted the whole thing closed before anybody could ask why a healthy man who supposedly died from his own body had bruising under his jaw. That did it. I went home, bolted the door, slid the box out from under the floor mat, and just stared at it for a while. A wig wrapped in an old towel, cheap face powder from a trader who never made eye contact, a compact with a crack through the center, one pair of earrings shaped like tiny leaves, a little blue hanbok, folded so carefully it almost made me angry. My hands were shaking hard enough that I dropped the hairpins twice. That part is still clear to me. The yellow light in the room, the sound of my own breathing getting too loud. My clothes on the floor in a pile that looked like something abandoned. The feeling that I wasn't putting on a disguise so much as stepping into the only version of myself who had any chance of getting through what came next. When I looked up, Minna was there in the mirror. Not beautiful, not perfect, just believable enough if nobody got close and nobody stared too long. And most people only see what they're expecting to see. That was the whole secret. Not beauty, expectation. The market near the river was mostly women after dark, traders, officials' wives, girls hauling sacks bigger than their torsos, old women with sharp eyes who noticed everything and decided on their own schedule what to care about. I kept my head down and walked the way Lily taught me. Nothing exaggerated, nothing theatrical, just smaller, quieter. Like I was trying to take up exactly the amount of space I was allowed, and not a breath more. That first night, I didn't go to the factory. I listened. Lily always said if you ask direct questions, people get careful. But if you let them correct a smaller wrong detail, they'll hand you the bigger truth themselves. At a cloth stall, two women were whispering about a red scarf, imported silk, too expensive for a normal market. One of them said it belonged to a performance wardrobe, something linked to women attached to a propaganda troupe. Then one of them mentioned somebody had been asking after Lily the week before. A tall woman, older, good coat, good shoes, and she smelled like jasmine. That last part lodged in me right away, because I'd smelled it before. On Lily, just once. He came into the basement one night, carrying that same soft, expensive floral smell with him, and I joked that he finally found somebody rich enough to spoil him. He snapped at me so fast the room went quiet. He apologized later, but he never explained it. Now he didn't have to. The second night I went nearer the textile factory. It had been shut down for years, but places like that never really stay empty. They just stopped belonging to ordinary people. The windows were broken. The yard was full of weeds, rusted barrels, twisted fencing, and old machinery left out like bones. I was halfway along the fence when a flashlight hit my legs. A security officer told me to stop, so I stopped. He came toward me slowly, which was worse than if he'd rushed. His eyes didn't go to my face first. They went to my hands. Men always forget their hands. Mine were tense, fingers half-curled like I was ready to bolt. He asked where I was going that late. I said my aunt traded cloth near the river, and I was bringing her thread. I kept my voice soft, a little breathy, the way I'd practiced alone in my room and hated myself for needing to practice at all. He stared for a long time, then he looked at my throat. And I really thought that was it. Not some big betrayal. Not a dramatic ending. Just one bad angle under one bad light, and suddenly your whole life belongs to somebody else. Then an old woman down the path started shouting about rotten cabbage and taxes and useless officers who only bothered tired women and never real thieves, and she made so much noise he turned to bark at her. I walked away without hurrying. I didn't breathe properly again until I was 2 streets over. The clue ended up not being at the factory at all. It was stitched into the hem of the blue hanbok. I found it the next night while changing back. My finger caught on a seam that didn't feel right. I pulled the thread loose and a tiny brass key fell into my lap, wrapped in a scrap of paper so small I almost missed it. Rail 7. Under. So Lily had known even then that if I panicked, I'd search my room first. He knew me that well. The following night I went in. There were 7 rail cars behind the factory, all of them half hidden under dead vines and scrap metal. Rail car 7 had a broken ladder and one door hanging crooked. I climbed in through the side. Inside smelled like cold iron, mildew, and old grease. Moonlight came through holes in the roof in thin white lines, and every time the wind moved outside, the shadows shifted just enough to make me feel like I wasn't alone. The sewing machine was exactly where Lily said it would be, bolted to a table. Thick dust on top, cleaner underneath. The key fit a panel under the base. Inside was an oilcloth bundle, a lipstick tube, and a folded note, so worn at the corners it looked like he'd handled it more than once before deciding to leave it there. I opened the note first. If you're reading this, I was right. Do not trust the scarf. She used it because she knew what people would assume. They used me as Lily, because women are searched differently, and because men like us are easy to blame when somebody important needs a dirty story. Nobody will question. There are names in the bundle, routes, payments, enough to get everyone in the basement killed if the wrong person gets it. Burn it. Tell them I didn't give them away. I had to stop there because my eyes suddenly wouldn't focus. There was one more line underneath, smaller than the rest. If you smell jasmine, leave. My whole body went cold. Because I could smell it, just a trace of it, but it was there now, drifting through the rail car behind me. I turned around. A woman was standing in the doorway. At first she was only a shape because the moonlight was behind her. Then she stepped enough for me to see the coat, the shoes, the scarf at her throat. Red. She looked at me for a second, and I got the worst feeling of my life, not just that she knew somebody was there, but that she had been expecting me specifically. Like Lily hadn't left a trap for her. He'd left one for me. She tilted her head and said very softly, that color looked better on him. I still don't know if she knew who I was or only what I was. I don't know which one keeps me up more. I grabbed the bundle and jumped out the far side, so fast I landed wrong, and my ankle folded under me. I heard her shout, then another voice, then 2 flashlight beams cutting through the weeds outside. I crawled under the rail car and pressed myself flat into oil and dirt while footsteps moved around me. Her perfume drifted past once, then again, so close I had to bite the inside of my cheek to stop myself from breathing too hard. At one point I could see the hem of her coat and the red edge of the scarf hanging down just inches from the axle. Then the footsteps moved away. I stayed there until the cold metal had numbed one whole side of my face. When I finally got back to my room, I opened the oilcloth bundle. Ledger pages, border dates, payment records, a photograph of Lily, dressed as himself, standing beside that woman outside a government guest house. And under all of that, another slip in Lily's handwriting with 6 names, every one of them from the basement. Ours. That was when I understood what he'd done. He hadn't hidden evidence, so somebody could expose the truth. He'd hidden it so one person could destroy it, before the truth killed all of us. I burned the bundle before sunrise in a stove behind an abandoned shed 2 neighborhoods away. Every page, every route, every payment record. I watched the photograph blacken at the edges until Lily's face curled up into ash with the rest of it. The only thing I kept was the lipstick tube. I don't fully know why. Maybe because it was the last ordinary thing in that bundle. A small, stupid personal thing, like he had still been Lily right up to the end and not just a body in somebody else's plan. After that, I went underground one last time and told the others what I could without signing their death warrants. We changed locations, burned clothes, smashed mirrors, buried makeup in different places. For months after that, every knock at a door felt personal. Officially, Lily died of a heart attack. Officially, nothing else happened. But things changed around the river after that. A few women stopped appearing at the market. One officer's wife vanished from the cloth stalls. 2 checkpoint guards were quietly reassigned. People notice those things. They just know better than to line them up out loud. Every year on the 17th of October, the few of us still left light one candle in a basement and let it burn all the way down. Nobody wears red anymore. I still have the lipstick tube though, and once in a while, even now, I smell jasmine when there shouldn't be any reason for it. On stairwells, in empty hallways, outside doors that were definitely locked a second earlier. Maybe that means nothing. Smells stay in your head after enough fear. I know that. I do. But last year I got to the basement first. I know I did. I checked the alley twice, waited, counted, listened. No one passed me on the stairs. No one brushed by. No door opened below me. And still, when I unlocked the basement and stepped inside, there was already a candle burning on the floor, just one, and laid neatly beside it, like somebody had taken the time to smooth it flat with both hands, was a strip of bright red silk.